Okay, it's 7:30. I'm gonna call the meeting to order, October 18th, regular city council, 7:30. Today we have present Ashley Smith, council member Josh Schiltz, council member Omar Martinez, and Cara McFerren, council member Mayor Pro-Tem. Unfortunately, council member Dominguez was not able to make it, although she may be zooming in. I don't know if she's online. And then, can't tell, who do we have online that's present?
We have attorney Nathan Mather and then a Kathy listed as a guest.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. Approval of agenda. We have a motion. There's a second. All in favor of approval of agenda? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I wanted to go ahead and recognize some individuals here in the community. And because they play a big part in the community as one aspect through our community school district. And on behalf of the city of West Liberty, I invited them to council meeting. And tonight we have Brenda Arthur Miller with us. She is the principal at West Liberty High School. She's also pivotal with our dual language program at the school. And I wanted to recognize the 3 teachers that we have from Spain that come in contract to teach or teaching assist for 1 to 3 years. I believe they're within that realm. Because of the role they play with our community school district dual language program for the benefit of cultural diversity for our students. I thought it warranted a recognition. So I wanted to thank you. And Jose is here. Oh, excellent. And Jose Cano in the back. And is Anna? Oh, yeah, she's not here yet. So we have Jose Cano. You can come and sit up here. And then we have Anna. I'm gonna get the last name. Blanes. And her family. Please come forward. There's some seats up here. I believe Anna's here for 3 years. Yes, and Jose, are you here for 1 year or 3 years? Okay.
From 1 to 3.
And could you just let us know where you're coming from in Spain?
I'm from Murcia. It's in the south of Spain. The weather is completely different.
We are from Mallorca, the Balearic Island. It's a very small island in the Mediterranean Sea. It's very touristic and very different from here. Now, it's not as cold as here, but we enjoy being here and making this cultural exchange and letting the students know how is Spain, how is the culture.
Okay. Could you introduce your family?
Yeah, of course. My husband, he's very important in our family. Yeah, now he's not working, but he used to work in Mallorca as with restaurants and hotels in business.
Not here, but very busy with 3 kids.
Yes, he's like a driver, going from the middle, elementary and high school. Then we have Manuel. Manuel is 14 years old. He's really excited about being here. He enjoys the high school very much. He's playing the trumpet really well and has many friends now. And this for him is so different and, being open-minded, knowing people from all over the world, from Mexico, from any country. that's very good for him to enrich himself as a person. And that's the perfect age at 14 because he's growing, and we are very glad to have him here in the village. Then we have Mar is in middle school. She's 11 years old. She'll be 12 next month. And she's very happy as well. She has joined the volleyball team in the middle school. She has many friends. And she's enjoying the neighborhood, the family, with all the changes and all the cultural things that we're doing. We went to a Halloween train last week in Mount Pleasant, and she really enjoyed it with her sister. And then we have Carmen, the little one. She's in grade 4. Well, Mari is in grade 7. Carmen is in grade 4, and she really enjoys being in my school with me. And she helps me in the morning, every morning, with all the stuff that I have to do in the school. I have some crayfish that I have to teach science in Spanish. So she helps me with that, and she's very happy to be with me because we visited in Mallorca. We were in different places. We were in the same school, and I was in another one. So I can share this moment with Carmen, and she really likes it. She has many friends as well. She joined the basketball team. So that's nice. Yeah.
Good. Well, I just wanted to welcome you all here to West Liberty, since, you know, you traveled such a long ways and that you're experiencing and adding to our valuable, you know, student experience as well. And then I didn't know, Brenda, if you had anything new to add to the language program that's happening. I know that we're you know, very, very much like one of the first schools, if not the first school.
We were the first school. This is our 24th year, so next year we're intending to celebrate a little bit more, having 25 years in the existence for 25 years. So, and I think the program is going, it's very strong and as strong as it has been. We struggle just like all school districts in Iowa with teacher shortages right now, so we've had to be a little more creative about how we deliver our programming. But we still believe that we have a quality program. Well.
Good. Well, thank you all for what you do and welcome for being here.
Yeah. And we have to thank all the staff in the elementary school. They are very, very nice. We have a coach, we have a principal, the principal assistant, and they always help us with everything we need. We are overwhelmed with the work we have to do, but everybody's very good.
And Teresa Castillo, is the third teacher also from Spain, and I think she's unable to make it this evening.
Yeah, she was at the airport, I think.
Yes, and she's in her 4th year, so she'll be here this year and next year, and then we'll return.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Good. Okay. So then we'll move on to the 4th item, and that's approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the meeting minutes, the clerk treasurer report, and the liquor license renewal for a Winks Bar and Grill. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there anything as far as the renewal of the liquor license? Have there been any issues with that? Everything,
We at City, we've had no issues.
Okay.
I don't know if Chief has had anything.
okay, then this is a consent vote, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Vendor vouchers claims list. We have an amount of $210,653.05. I entertain a motion. Motion to approve the vendor voucher claims list. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the vendor vouchers claims list? Any questions? Anybody had? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, of vendor vouchers claims list?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're gonna move into public comments and correspondence. The time is set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business, other than those listed on the agenda. I also want to kind of set some ground rules and make sure that everybody understands that I'm going to allow a 2-minute limit for public comments. And that it is very important to understand that the city council meetings are a meeting of and by this governing body that is held in public, but is not a meeting of the public. So therefore, there won't be any back and forth discussion dialogue. We are here to listen to the comments and give you our undivided attention. So I'll entertain a motion to open it up for public comments. Do we have anybody that has any comments? Okay, go ahead and just give us your name and where you're from. To the record.
Sí, mi nombre es María Miguel, soy de México, tengo aquí viviendo un poco más de 20 años, sí. Y a mí me pusieron que my name is Maria, I'm from Mexico and I have lived in Los Liberty for a little over 20 years, and she's going to read it. Yo estoy aquí para leer una carta del grupo Escucha mi voz, del Fondo de Trabajadores Excluidos y al Libro Universal de Servicios Públicos. Alcaldesa interina Cara McFerren y miembros del Consejo Municipal de West Liberty. Mayor Pro-Tem Cara McFerren and West Liberty City Council members. Trabajando con nuestros socios en Católico, Shari, USA y Departamento de Agricultura de Estados Unidos, Escucha mi voz. Iowa está trayendo miles de dólares de ayuda pandémica a West Liberty para trabajadores agrícolas y de alimentos afectados negativamente por el COVID-19. This letter is from Escucha mi voz, Iowa, West Liberty. Working with our partners at Catholic Charities USA and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Escucha mi voz, Iowa is bringing thousands of pandemic relief dollars into West Liberty for farm and food workers negatively impacted by COVID-19. Los únicos requisitos para recibir un cheque de $600 del programa Farm and Food Workers Relief son: 1, prueba de identidad; 2, prueba de empleo en una granja, planta empacadora de carne o instalación de procesamiento de alimentos durante al menos 2 semanas desde el 27 de enero del 2020 y una autocertificación de impacto pandémico negativo de $600. The only requirements to receive a $600 check from the Farm and Food Workers Relief Program are: 1, proof of identity; 2, proof of employment on a farm, meat packing plant, or food processing facility for at least 2 weeks since January 27, 2020. And number 3, a self-certification of negative pandemic impact of $600. El programa de Fondo de Trabajadores Excluidos y al Libro Universal de Servicios Públicos es una prueba de nuestro compromiso con West Liberty, así como de nuestra capacidad. Sin embargo, no cubrirá a todos los trabajadores afectados negativamente por la pandemia, ni absorber la responsabilidad de la ciudad de brindar ayuda adicional a sus residentes. The FFWR program is proof of our commitment to West Liberty as well as our capacity. However, it will not cover all workers negatively impacted by the pandemic, nor does it absolve the city of your responsibility to deliver additional aid to your residents.
Okay, I wanted to just let you know that's 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So the time is enough.
Okay, if we have,
Interpretation time?
yeah, at the last meeting, we said that the 2 minutes, that they would roughly double it. So we would-
I can give you a little bit more to finish the letter. We're more than.
Por lo tanto, exigimos que la ciudad de West Liberty cumpla su promesa de crear un fondo de trabajadores excluidos de 150,000 para distribuir ayuda pandémica de $700 al menos 200 residentes de West Liberty, que fueron excluidos de otros programas de ayuda federal.
Therefore, we demand the city of West Liberty to fulfill your promise to create a $150,000 excluded workers fund to distribute pandemic relief of $700 to at least 200 West Liberty residents who are excluded from other federal relief programs.
Exigimos además que toda la asignación de RPA de 522,000 de la ciudad que no se invierta en un fondo de trabajadores excluidos. Se destine al alivio automático y general de las facturas de servicios públicos para todos sus hogares de West Liberty sin excepción.
We further demand that any and all of the city's $522,000 ARPA allotment that is not invested in an excluded workers fund be put towards automatic and across the board utility bill relief for all West Liberty households without exception. And she's going to provide you with a copy of the letter that's been signed by Escucha West Liberty. Is there anybody else who's willing to, or wants to speak up that has any other public comments? If this is, more public comments from the group, Escucha, I think unless there's anything different to share, we've heard you. But I wanted to entertain any other public comments. And only if it's anything different than what we have heard. Yes.
No, mi nombre es José Zacarías,
Hi, my name is Jose Fernandez.
and I'm here to repeat my support in the petition of the student workers.
And I'm here to repeat my support for the Escucha West Liberty.
Entiendo muy profundamente las necesidades que tiene la ciudad,
I understand very completely the need that the city has.
but desde el momento en que me involucré con el gobierno de la ciudad, no he conocido nada diferente. Siempre hemos tenido las mismas necesidades.
But since I've become involved with the city, I have not seen anything different. We always have the same needs.
Entiendo perfectamente, por ejemplo, la necesidad de que parte de ese dinero vaya al departamento de policía.
And so, for example, I understand that some of this money will go to the police.
Pero me gustaría recordarle al gobierno de esta ciudad y a las personas presentes que esto es un ejercicio democrático significando gobierno del pueblo, para el pueblo, por el pueblo.
But I would like to remind the government that this is a democratic exercise and that the government is for the people, by the people.
And si esto no es una situación en la cual el gobierno de la ciudad puede ayudar a sus residentes, no veo en el futuro ninguna posibilidad de que esto se presente. Si la situación por la que atraviesan los trabajadores excluidos no es suficiente para que la ciudad decida ayudarlos, nada se va a ayudar.
And so if this situation of the excluded workers isn't enough to make the city move, then I don't think that anything will be able to make the city move.
Gracias por su atención.
Is there any other public comments that you have on Zoom or online?
Mayor Pro Tem, I have no one showing that they have a comments.
Any other comments? Council, do you have any comments? Or have you received any comments? City administration, have you received anything?
I have no public comments or correspondence.
Madam, we have received the email from the switching rules. That was provided to all of our council members, and also we received some correspondence, I believe, from the city of Moline with an invite that was provided as well. And that would be the correspondence that we received.
I believe I forwarded all the information from my state and sent it off to Chief Werling as well as chiefs and things.
I don't have anything to add as far as public comment stuff. So then we can continue to move on into old business. We have discussion and action in regards to recommendations of finance committee to identify projects and timelines for use of state and local fiscal recovery funds. So that is finance committee. What is
Dana is the chair of the finance committee.
okay?
So do you want me to,
Are you able to speak for the committee?
like to review what we talked about at the committee meeting on Thursday?
Yeah, you can go ahead and hear if you want to go over what you went through with your finance committee. And again, I can just remind council, there's no decision that has to be made. But again, it's based on what the finance committee information is. If there's something that discussion would acquire some action, you have the capability within.
Okay, as a finance committee, we met last Thursday to talk about, start talking about what are ways to spend the ARPA funding and the SLFRF funding. Chief Werling presented some options for funding that would support the police department, to include retention bonuses and weapons and replacement of vehicles. And Chief Siggles and I don't know, but EMS Tammy Wigram presented some ideas for ways that the funds could be used to help the fire and EMS department. At that point, after we talked about those things, I asked where we were in the process with providing direct assistance payments to the Escucha Amigos. And that I had federal correspondence from federal policy directors that said that that this was a eligible use of funds. And then we got a document from the auditor of the state auditor Sands about government paying or giving payments to nonprofits. And so I had expressed concern that I didn't think this applied to the ARPA funding. I thought this was about donations. And so city administration encouraged me to reach out to Auditor Sands for more information about that, which I said I would do. But as I'm looking then through our emails at more, over the last few days, we got more detailed information from the police and from fire EMS about what specifically would they need and what specifically would benefit all of West Liberty. And it looks like the police department requests $143,000. The fire and EMS requests $185,000. And if we were to honor, which I believe we voted on, and well, I wasn't part of the council then, but I believe in July 2022, it was voted on to process $150,000 in direct assistance payments, we would still have almost $44,000 available in ARPA funding for a future purpose. I don't know, we didn't come to any decisions. Personally, as a member of the finance committee, I support all three of those initiatives. And I think that there's no reason to wait on approving those three things. And then in the future, we can decide what to do with the remaining funds. But
I think all three of these things will benefit people of West Liberty, as well as helping people who've been disproportionately impacted by the COVID pandemic and help keep all of our citizens safe and cared for. So I would support moving to use that funding for those purposes. But yeah, that's it. Did I leave anything out?
Just to clarify, the council has not, they've not voted.
I guess I thought in June that it had voted, or I was told that it had.
It was brought up and it was suggested, and we all thought, I think it was a confusion because we just suggested this was a possible direction to go to with an amount that was given, and that perhaps we would look into pursuing that, but by no means did we ratify anything. There was no resolution. So in essence, there was no vote to actually.
Okay.
There was no resolution put before council.
Okay.
You were directed to write a resolution.
Excuse me, sir. This is not a back and forth. Okay, can I have this gentleman removed, please? I explained the rules to you. There is no back and forth discussion. So obviously you're not listening. You need to leave. I'm sorry. Please leave.
I'm gonna leave alone. with him.
Please, excuse me,
We have
there
a
is
meeting-
no
We have a
discussion.
meeting at the public library.
Please,
We approved $700.
excuse me. No. You need to leave, sir. Police Chief Werling, will you please escort this gentleman out?
So just like you see tonight in your agenda, there's discussion and appropriate, and so what took place, and we can go back and we can pull the minutes for review. But it was sent back to the finance committee to focus on, because there hadn't been an instruction for the staff to work on seeing what could be accomplished or what we could do. And so that was, and then the discussion was, would it be a possibility for that amount? And so that's what started the work of staff, working with Johnson County and having meetings with Johnson County. And that's what brought some information forward from the CPA. We also had a legal opinion from our city attorney. So what I was trying to say is that there's not been a resolution, as Mayor Pro-Tem has stated, to ratify saying exactly what council is directing those dollars towards. So yes, from your discussion the other night at the finance meeting, just as Councilmember Smith said, those were the things that that they had discussed. And so those are the things that the finance committee is continuing, and likewise from staff that we continue to work to see how we can make that within our resources, those possibilities happen. And then once you come up with that timeline, then you're going to set a resolution to approve the funding designating to those things, is my understanding.
And the only other thing that was brought up, which I believe I sent to Mayor Pro-Tem McFerren as well as the finance committee, were the Councilman Dominguez had asked about the security system for the various facilities. And I think I'd sent out a quote that Nick put together for that as well.
You did. I forgot to mention that.
That's all right.
What facilities are those security cameras for? Is that like the pool or
Those were for City Hall, PD, fire, wastewater, electric, library.
Is it
There
the
might
Fire
be.
department.
I said fire.
or is it young?
Public works is just water. Well, actually, water and wastewater.
So that could be a use for the remaining $43,856 that would be unallocated if we moved forward with those three initiatives, right?
All of those, as I recall, that estimate was a little over $65,000 for all of them.
Right. So-
And there might, and I think as Nick had stated, there might be a couple additional cameras we're gonna be needed when we head in, if we're gonna go that route, continue to finalize those.
Yeah, initially, we wanted to go ahead and thought that we'd be able to give money just like we wanted to. But in the process of finding out the information and whether or not there were legalities involved in the rules, we discovered that there's a lot more to it than just passing money to an organization. There's a lot more rules involved with doing that. And it's not as easy as we thought we could do. And that was the reason why we had to walk back a little bit. And we still want to be able to offer funds to people in need in our community. But we have to do it within the boundaries of our capacity as well as the rules that we're given and the professional recommendation of our council. And that's making sure that, to my knowledge, we're not to distribute funds to a new organization. Is that correct? I don't know, maybe perhaps Attorney Mather can kind of chime in on this, but I thought that it had to be an organization that was established and set up prior to the COVID, or at least prior to the ARPA funding. And that we could give it to a nonprofit 501c3. But the group in question that was asking is not a 501c3. It's not a nonprofit.
I'm gonna find I have it in an email, but I don't want to refer to the wrong person, so I'm sorry, please continue. I will.
Ethan, are you there?
I am. I can tell you that that would probably be a best practice to give it to an established organization. However, that was not part of our legal analysis. I'm guessing that's something that probably came from the interactions with the state auditor or the accountants. That by no means should be interpreted to say I think that's a bad idea. I'm just saying that was not part of our legal analysis.
And what the letter from the state auditor stated, they provided us instructions how to directly resource funds to 501(c)(3)s, and it was my understanding that it was something that was existing and that you were not to start something new that couldn't be sustained from the resourcing of the funds.
And so therefore it was discussed to bring up the possibility of giving funds to the ministerial association, to where that has been established. It's a nonprofit. And they would be able to distribute to people in need for instance, utility relief. Or giving it to the what's it called? The
Pantry.
Community action.
community action. That would also be able to distribute funds to our community members that needed relief or utility relief.
One thing I would add to our analysis, as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that either Escucha Mi Voz or the Catholic Workers, one of those organizations was awarded in excess of what is it, over $1 million by another aspect of the United States government. So as you recall, one of the important requirements in making any kind of ARPA allocation is assessing the need. And obviously that sort of money may well change your need equation. I'm not saying that it does, but that's something that the council would have to reassess in order to meet the prongs of the proportionality and need as they are set forth in the ARPA requirements.
early September, I emailed Laura McDaniel at the Federal Treasury. She is the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds and U.S. Treasury Office of Recovery Programs representative about what are ways we can move forward with direct assistance payments because our city doesn't have the capacity to process them. And she sent me back documentation that says it was okay to use a 501 or nonprofit as a subrecipient, not as someone who is going to directly benefit from it. So not giving money to the Ministerial Association for their already established program, but using the Ministerial Association as a subrecipient to process those checks for the direct relief. And so I have emails from her that says, that's great, that's fine, you can totally do that. That meets all of the, and then she sent me additional things. From what I understand, maybe it is the state auditor that is saying that that's not okay. So do I need to contact that person in addition to Laura McDaniel?
No, they are saying that the
That it is
Ministerial Association is who we can do.
Yes,
That's what we're trying to
you're
communicate.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
That's what we just said. Yes, we can choose ministerial association, or we could give some to the community action or community action and ministerial. However,
I think if the Ministerial Association has experience with, using and distributing federal funds, there's no reason not to use them as a subrecipient to then process the checks on behalf of all of the excluded workers. So I don't see a reason why we can't ask for a resolution to do that. In addition to funding the police request and the fire and EMS request, and using the rest of the money to help with the security camera request. I mean, that would be what I would like to do. I don't know, like, I know I'm new, so I don't know how who writes the resolution or what comes next, but that would be what I would want to support to do.
well, what we can do is, just kind of digest this, and then we can come back with a action item for the next council meeting. And then that, because we need a vote to actually vote to give it to them. And then we can, therefore the action will be directed for city administration.
And we'd have to, we'd have to talk with legal counsel.
Yes.
Because there has to be an agreement. We have to have an agreement with the Ministerial Association. I'm just going out. So if that's the step, that council approves, then you have to have an agreement with Ministerial Association. So there's an understanding. And I'd have to talk to council. I'm just
Council, not us, council,
Our
legal counsel, sorry. We have to have an agreement, so that both parties understand that the contribution is being provided on, or I can't say, the direct resource of the funds are being provided for this purpose, and that the Ministerial Association accepts the funds for that purpose.
And then they will be in charge of collecting the contact information and processing all of
Yes.
the follow-up reports and all that, so it doesn't drain our city capacity, right?
Again, I don't want to speak for what I don't know, but it would just simply be if there was ever a time that we would have to go back and call for the records or resources for our reporting that we would, because that's why you would have the agreement.
Right.
Because ultimately, we are mandated to make sure that we make that reporting to the federal government.
Right. And the Ministerial Association has experience doing things like this, so, right, so we can.
I believe we have a representative from the Ministerial Association. Father Martin, are you involved with the ministerial?
Used to be.
Used to, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a question, I know.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I
You
put a
should be.
name with the face, so that, if you, and actually, if Ashley has questions
I've
later.
spoken with Father Tribunal, and so he's assured me that, yes, this is well within their capacity, yes, they can do this, they can record this information. So I guess what needs to happen between that, like, is it reasonable to say we will have this resolution at the next meeting? Is that enough time to drop a contract with the
Well,
council?
I think that depends on how quickly we get information back from legal counsel.
Okay. And so that's you guys, we don't do that part.
No,
That's our attorney.
we, as staff, you direct us to, so your consensus could be is to direct staff to, based on what your finance committee, to send any of those pieces over to legal to have it reviewed and with a legal opinion. But most importantly, typically it would go back to the finance committee, and the finance committee is you're
Yeah.
gonna have that
I mean,
discussion.
that's what I
Yes.
thought. I thought we had our meeting the other night to talk about some of the issues. I know fire was looking to put some things back, and I thought
Yeah.
finance was gonna come back.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, they
you're
did
right.
do
Some
it via
additional-
email, like,
You're
But I
right.
thought we were gonna discuss some other potential uses at the next meeting.
That's right. I'm sorry. I apologize. I think I jumped the gun a little bit. So I apologize.
I mean,
I'm just as much as like, let's get this.
Well, right, I guess I don't see any reason to drag it out more, because the finance committee is.
Right.
doing all that.
I don't need to, we don't want to drag it out, but we also need to make sure we get our legal counsel signed off on it to make sure.
So do we, as a council, need to vote that this is what we would like us to talk to the
well, I
legal
guess,
counsel about?
I mean, from us, I mean, from the finance committee. You can nudge me, but from the finance committee, so here's the thing, your communication, your conversation. Has always been focused on that, the direct funding to the organization that has came and spoke and asked. And so what you could do as a consensus is direct staff to focus on that specifically. And then we get with legal counsel to find out how we can do that piece of it. And then finance committee can come back then and review these other pieces that you have.
Because I think there still needs to be discussion on those dollar amounts. On, yeah, and on dollar amounts too, because I think there's some other suggestions.
Yeah, we
like
have
with
some
the
other
general
departments
ideas.
that are coming forward and asking, so, but again, as we kind of talked. Or as the finance committee spoke the other night, I mean, and again, what has always been the consistent discussion is how. Can we make that work to give that financial aid to the community members in need?
Right, and I think that's important to underline, community members in need. Absolutely.
So.
So if I might interject, in the interest of speeding the process along, I think two things would be very helpful. Number one, the finance committee should include in its deliberations consideration and examination of evidence as to the proportionality and appropriateness of the requests in light of the USDA funding that has come out. You still need to make those adequate findings. Second thing I would recommend is, and I'm sorry, I missed the name of the organization you're suggesting might be appropriate. But if that organization has a written proposal about how it would fulfill the terms of its subrecipient obligations, that would go a long way to the city not having to invent them out of whole cloth.
I guess I have a is it okay to ask them a question? Okay, I have a question about when you said about the findings in light of this recent funding. So are you saying that because some of these families are eligible to get funding from the USDA, they may not necessarily need this money anymore for direct assistance? Is that what I'm hearing, or am I
No.
understanding that, misunderstanding that?
So if I might, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying they no longer need the funding. I'm also not saying that they, I'm not making any determination on need whatsoever. What I am saying is, in light of that money, council has to, finance committee and ultimately the council has to be responsible for evaluating to what extent that money is needed. So I'm not saying it's not, you guys just have to find that it is, and you have to be able to support that with adequate documentation, research, et cetera, in order to fulfill the term. Does that make more sense?
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that's about as clear as mud. So should we go ahead and just direct admin to go ahead and just review with legal?
Yes. I mean, is that, do you need to do a vote? Consent vote?
We
I
can
think-
review with legal, but I think, again, from council, they're saying set a finance committee.
Meeting as well.
Yeah.
As soon as we meet.
Refer it to Finance Committee to make those appropriate findings that will support the ARPA appropriateness determination. That would be my recommendation.
Whenever we, or the you as the committee, that data. can be-
So, Madam
It's
Mayor,
set.
or Madam Mayor, Pro Tem and Councilmember Smith, we will relate your communication to staff and subcommittee as soon as possible.
Thank you. Okay, so move on to discussion appropriate action by recommendation of Special Fire EMS Task Force Committee contract service with consultant for community agency work.
Actually, after our meeting last night, at this point, I don't know that
There is any,
there is a need to contract for service at this point. I'm not saying that that might not happen in the future, but out of the meeting last night, I don't think we're quite there.
okay. Yeah, and as far
I
as,
mean, it was a good meeting, and I think it was a good conversation between the task force members and Pat Callahan, and I know he left the group with some questions for them to think about as they look at putting together the agency agreement. But I don't think we're at the point where they've asked for some assistance in putting that agreement together.
okay. Then we'll move on to new business. Discussion and appropriate action for building permit request by Rachel and Todd Morrison. The use of the public right of way for 105 West 3rd Street.
Would just point out, this is very similar to the request that council approved a few months back regarding the property at
Hang on just a second. We've got some individuals leaving. I just want to make sure we have full attention.
Wait, I can, well, I guess I'm.
Okay,
this request is very similar to the request Frank Wagner and Emily Geertz had applied for recently from council. If you recall, they had received an economic development grant from the city for their project at 115 East 3rd Street. They came back to council to get permission to put in a ramp to access that building. This particular project, again, is one that council approved an economic development grant to Rachel and Todd Morrison for their property there in West L at 105 West 3rd. And they're requesting as well to utilize some of that sidewalk space to put a ramp into their facility to allow access for their customers as well as they're doing their improvements on their building.
It's essentially to comply with you.
Yep.
it's very similar to what is in front of
West
the,
Liberty Market.
Yes, West
Sarah
Liberty
said the
Market.
checks. I mean, they're just waiting for the handrails to
Yep.
to complete
Edward
that one.
Jones, Edward Jones, the ramp and stair
Yep.
combination.
So do we need a motion to approve?
Yes, please.
Yes,
I'll make a motion to approve.
we have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have a resolution. 222-1018-23. It's a resolution approving naming depository for the city of West Liberty, and this is going to be roll call vote. Is there a motion? There is second.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? We hearing none. We'll do roll call. Councilmember Martinez. I vote yes. Councilmember Schiltz.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith. Yes. Motion carries. We got resolution 222-1018-24. A resolution approving the city of West Liberty to enter into an agreement with the Muscatine Humane Society for certain animal care and housing of strays.
Would-
Motion to approve. Is that what we're supposed to do?
You,
Well, first, let's get a motion on the table. And do we have a second? Second, okay, and we'll open up for discussion.
The city's had a previous agreement with Muscatine County for this type of service when needed. And I think the reason that it came back to us is that they've had to raise their fees. I think it was originally $75. That's now up to $100. So they basically asked us to bring it back to council and have approval to amend the agreement.
Yeah, so after we hold them for 3 days here, if nobody claims them, then Eddie takes them down to the Humane Society. And that's what that fee is.
It used to be, I think, 75.
Yep, it was
75 was the previous.
And
And
now they bumped it up to.
Yep, so that also coincides with our running at large fees as well.
And this is first string.
Yes, so every time we take one down, it's $100.
And this will also then at the next council meeting, we will have to amend our fees.
Oh, yeah.
To be in line with.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, motion to approve. We have a motion and a second, so we're there.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So this is going to be roll call vote. Councilmember Smith. Yes. Councilmember Schiltz.
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez. And I vote yes. Motion passes. Okay, discussion and appropriate action setting budget timeline for fiscal year 22-23. You'll notice, city clerk has put together a really nice timeline, so that it gives you an indication of what needs to be filed and moved forth with regards to our budget from October until March when we have to file it. So
We don't need an action on it. It's just
just to inform us. I think, thank you for putting that together, by the way. It helps us understand like where our needs need to be met for keeping up deadlines. Anybody have any other discussion? For that? Okay, we'll move on to city reports. We've got city engineer here, Leo.
Yes, glad to be here.
Yes, Sheriff Foley.
I've got a couple of reports. First one, we had the work session tonight on the Maxon and Rainbow project. And that project is ready from a civil, just ready to go out with bids, and we're just gonna coordinate with BHMG and try to get the electrical, so everything lines up, so we have a contract ready to go in the spring. Wastewater treatment plant, we've done a report in 2021 on some baseline improvements, and we provided the city administrator with a contract to start on that project. And I know that will have some funding and things that will have to go along with it, but I think he's got all the information now to move forward to make a decision. And well, number 2, we finished that report and also have a contract to go forward with the design on that based upon finding and getting the funding for that.
Where are we with well number 2?
Well, number 2, the hope is that we just want to make sure we've got the right funding source, which I believe that we do.
Can we have somebody, are they leaving
Yep,
out there?
they're leaving.
It's a bit distracting when they're talking.
We had a little discussion prior to the work session. I think Lee and I just need to sit down to make sure where we're going to fund the well, and if we have it ready. We've got the proposal, and we can bring that potentially to the next meeting to get moving on
Yeah.
for the well.
I sort of got distracted and didn't know where we're at exactly with that. I know we had it brushed.
Yeah, everything's done.
And everything's done.
We've had the final report. We've got Leo actually sent over an agreement. I read through it. I caught a typo that they fixed and they've sent back. So we just want to make sure we have the funding that we want to utilize for it. And if we have that decided between Lee and I, then we'll bring that back to council as an agenda item for your next meeting, but hopefully approve it.
Okay. So, anything else to add?
That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have anything as far as the staff minutes, department minutes? staff meeting notes. I did receive a earful in regards to making sure that we stay on top of our city hires, because I know we're down with some staffing, and one in particular is our electric department.
We're currently down 2 members in that department. We've had advertisements out for linemen and we put those back out again. There's an application for apprentice. We do believe that we're still advertising for a police officer and paramedics. We did, Danny's made a hire in the water plant that we'll be bringing forward to the council approval on setting his wage and stuff there in the future. He hopes to have him on sometime in November. The latest it would be December 1st.
Okay. Because I know that we probably need to have it.
And I-
Utility.
Yeah, I had mentioned both to Ashley and to Josh earlier that I will send an email out to them tomorrow to get some dates to have a utility meeting. Because we do have our rate study that's been done from BHMG. I was going to say at backwards, with some recommendations that they have going forward. So we want to take to the utility committee before we bring it to the full council for consideration.
Yeah, because we have to be moving on that. And then maybe look at the possibility of, I don't know if we have to look at the possibility of what is it, what wage or salary?
We're looking at wage and
equity?
salary across the board. For all of our
Okay.
departments going forward.
Yeah, this, it was explained to me that either we are on the lower,
If you're comparing us to Alliant and Mid-America and REC, yeah, that they're a much larger organization and privately held. I know there are some municipals that are higher, there are some that are lower, so I need to do some checks as well, but we will have to take that into consideration as we move through. That should not be the only factor with what private's going to do.
okay. Yeah, because we need to get that on board. Any other, we get a finance committee meeting as well. Any other staff meeting reports, anybody had any questions on? As far as the other committees, we have, well, finance we talked about. We also had a special task force committee meeting for fire EMS last night. And we had a very, I think, enlightening conversation with the consultant, Pat Callahan, who has expertise, especially working with, is it George Ulster, the fire, he
It
was,
was the former Iowa Fire Institute that was there at Iowa State University, but I believe
he was a former like
he was the director.
director.
And he
okay.
was a former chief, I believe, in Western.
Okay. So, I think it went really well. He gave us some insight, and I think it's, I think we're still kind of waiting on trying to figure out how we want to frame the agreement. That's still in the works. My only concern is making sure that we don't put the cart before the horse, because I know that, the individuals with the fire will want to create the agency, which is great. But as far as the city working with the agency, it is no different than any other agreement where you have a customer and a vendor. And that's how Pat Callahan kind of explained it. And in this particular circumstance, we would be the customer and the agency would be the vendor. Is that correct?
The fire department will become the vendor and the townships in the city will become customers, whereas in the current agreement, the city's the vendor and the trustees are
Are the
customers.
customers. And that's how it's been.
Yep.
So, I think we just need to move forward with trying to iron out the agreement details. on how we want to approach this relationship.
And the only other thing that I would let council know is we have received 2 applications for the position of mayor as of today. The deadline is tomorrow at noon. And I want to remind you that the hope is to have a special council meeting next Monday at 5 p.m. prior to the training session that mayor and council have with Pat Callahan that evening, which we'll have a light dinner for you all at 5:30, and Pat will start his program about 6 o'clock. And we'll be meeting here, probably in this room behind us, for that meeting. I talked to Courtney prior to this meeting, and they've got a big setup for West Liberty. Foods is having a meeting on Tuesday morning, so she asked if it would be okay back there, and told her that would be fine. So,
Excellent. Okay. Is there anything else?
Madam Mayor Pro-Tem, we have Deputy Clerk Hoffert will be out Thursday and Friday for continuing education under the Iowa Municipal Finance Association. And also, last week we had utility billing clerk Rena Avalos attended some additional training with IMAU going over compliance and also billing information for us. And and we do have applicants. We've set 2 interviews this week to replace Sergio, who left us last week. So that's it.
Okay. Everybody, is that all for this evening? Anybody have any further discussion? Miscellaneous? Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion. Motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.